Thanks for staying with us. Let's look at the morning newspapers now. I'm pleased to say we're joined by columnist for The National, Shona Craven, and Daily Mail reporter, Alessia Pomorski.
Morning.
Letters, thanks for being with us. Morning to you. Happy Saturday morning. Let's get started with the front of the Daily Mail, which has the headline. Why don't you start? Because your paper.
Yes.
Farmer faces Waterloo.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, we're seeing this across a lot of the front pages today, but it is going in again on the battle that will be commencing between Starmer and Andy Burnham. So what's being reported at the moment is that the by-election, the Makersfield by-election, will be taking place on June 18th, which happens to coincide with the Battle of the Waterloo.
Oh, wow.
So, you know, obviously drawing on the fact that this is going to be a huge by-election for everyone. But I think one thing that we should be focusing on at the moment is that this is not a done deal for Andy Burnham. And in fact, it's going to be an incredibly hard seat for him to win. Josh Simons, the MP who's currently there, has stood aside for him at the moment. And based off of what we've seen in the local elections recently, it was very much won across the board. Over 50% of the votes were won in that seat by Reform.
Yep.
And going back to the general election as well, that was won by Labour, and, you know, it was the Loveless election. So Josh Simons, the former MP, won by a majority of, I think, 5,500. But polling now for the next general election, although I know it's very far away, is suggesting it's going to be a Reform safe seat. By about 70% of the voters is going to be a Reform. So really, the next few weeks are going to be very telling.
Well, let me bring in the Daily Express next. We're leaping ahead a little bit just to confuse everybody, because it's relevant to what Lettuce was talking about there. Their front page is quoting Nigel Farage saying, "We will give him a very nasty shock." I mean, we should say Andy Burnham hasn't actually been selected as Labour's candidate yet, but he's been cleared to put his hat in the ring for that candidacy, and it's expected that he'll get it. What do you think about this, Shona? I mean, is Andy Burnham a significantly distinct character to sort of to be able to shed the polling bad news and push through and win that seat, do you think?
I mean, it remains to be seen maybe how the public view what they're seeing play out here, that they're not getting a say necessarily in who the Prime Minister is going to be. Obviously, the people in this constituency will get a say, but, Nigel Farage is saying if Andy Burnham thinks he can use local people to waltz in as leader of this failing Labour government, we'll throw everything we can at him to give him a very nasty shock. So, yeah, I think this front page kind of bucks the trend a little bit of the other papers saying Andy Burnham's cleared to run, and maybe presenting it as a bit of a fait accompli, that he will win the by-election and become the Labour leader, when actually there's still a lot of uncertainty, but it will be resolved one way or another fairly
and actually
soon.
On that, it does feel like many people who are talking about this, particularly Labour MPs, are jumping a few steps ahead. Like you say, we're still at the very start of this. The NEC still has to technically approve him as the candidate. He's then got to win that by-election. He's then got to get into Parliament. Then he's got to get 81 people to agree, think that he should take over as leader. Then there's got to be a leadership contest. I mean, the steps that we've got to go through, the hoops he's definitely got to jump through, there are many of them, and it's going to be happening over these next few weeks. And actually, there's something that I think is quite telling in this as well, is that Keir Starmer's come out on the front page of the Times as well, and they're saying that he's now going to approve an 18 billion extra funding for defence. This is something that would be very popular with the wider public. So you're clearly, even though he's going to have to say he's supporting Andy Burnham and say he's supporting him in this seat, he's clearly paving the way to make himself more popular with his MPs and with the national public as well.
The question will be whether or not that's enough, because, of course, it's obviously coming. The desire for that money has been there for months, but it comes when he's under pressure. There are many steps ahead, aren't there? I was accused of being Mystic Meg for saying that he'd be challenged yesterday by the Secretary of State for Housing, because it's not a guarantee. And I suppose this in the front of the Times suggests that Keir Starmer is just going to fight whatever happens, and in fact could end up with Keir Starmer just staying in place if all things didn't go the other's way.
Yeah, the lamest of ducks if somehow this doesn't materialise. But yeah, the front of the Times has, a lot of the papers have Andy Burnham running, the story being he's running. I mean, the NEC have cleared the path. So, yeah, it's the obvious visual to it must be so awkward being out for your jog and everyone snapping at you. But also, it's sort of saying that PM readies for battle by focusing on defence. But of course, there's a double meaning there. For a future war is the readying for battle, but also personally his fight for survival.
And there's already so much pressure on Andy Burnham in this idea that he is going to make it. But there's also the other idea of who else is going to be running against. This past week has just been sort of chaotic in terms of, is Wes Streeting going to run? Is Angela Rayner going to run? You know, is Ed Miliband even going to run? There's been so much back and forth. And in a way, if more people end up running, like what you were saying earlier, it's going to be more likely that the PM does win because he'll actually split the vote even further amongst the soft left and the more centrist like Wes Streeting and Keir Starmer.
In the meantime, the Financial Times pointing out that while this is all going on, and as you say, Lettuce, this could take weeks and weeks until we get some resolution one way or another, they're saying that the UK risks paralysis because how difficult is it to push through policy when you've got over 90 of your own MPs calling for you to resign and to get any kind of traction on any of that policy? Are we going to end up with a stasis?
Yeah, it's interesting to compare that to the Times saying that this defence spending increase is going to happen, and the Financial Times saying a minister loyal to Starmer says take something like the Defence Investment Plan, which is already delayed. I can't see us being able to get that sorted out anytime soon. So that's a direct contradiction. But also, to be fair, you've got lines like government figures have expressed concern that key initiatives, including the push for closer EU ties, will be disrupted. It's not a very inspiring push for closer EU ties. There's not really a lot to that. I think it's like youth mobility, you know, that's the focus there. And that's one of the many, many issues overshadowing all of this, the huge cost of Brexit that nobody is planning to actually reverse. So you could argue that they're in paralysis, but other people would say, well, what were they actually planning to do? That speech Starmer gave after the elections wasn't actually all that exciting, but then why should it be? Because you shouldn't announce a load of new measures after an election failure. So, yeah, very contradictory messages coming, and it maybe obviously depends who you speak to, what spin they're going to put on it. The Starmer defenders are going to say the country cannot afford all this chaos. The Starmer opponents will say we cannot afford to go on the way we are.
Yeah, did say they're going to nationalise British Steel, and how many headlines that got.
Yeah, but well, I mean, it was a new confirmation, but it was certainly had been rumbling. It wasn't a big surprise.
We want to talk about pubs now.
Of course.
It's a bit early for me.
I
wasn't suggesting
I can be tempted. All right, fine.
But this is an article in the Daily Telegraph suggesting that we need a national pub day. Who is suggesting this?
I mean, yeah, they're saying we need a national pub day, but I think there's barely a Briton who would be opposed to having a national pub day. It's part of the culture of our country, and at the moment, pubs do take up a lot of the news because it's becoming even more and more expensive just to go to your local pub and get a pint. I mean, I've been doing a story in the past few weeks about how the £10 pint in London is now on the horizon.
£10 pint?
£10 pint. I mean, it's already £10 in certain, you know, high-end establishments, I'm going to say, across London. But it's so expensive. And on the other side of that, even though I think the average right now is around £7 for a pint across London, but of that, only 17p is an actual profit that the pub is making.
Wow.
So they're not making much off these pints. So I think things like this, National Pub Day that would rise up and just, you know, bring a bit of happiness.
As long as pints are tenner. I mean, I'm sure my age now. When I used to work in a pub, pints were going for £1.50, maybe £2.50 for the top end ones.
£1.50, that would be the day.
Anna, how much were pints when you were working in the bar? Do you remember?
I'm older than you?
How much were pints in Scotland, Shona?
I've actually never drunk a pint in my whole life.
Oh my goodness gracious, that's it, out.
I'm with you. Not a pint of cocktails, though.
Am I a pint drinker? OK, fine, anyway. We're getting
I definitely love
And we
pints.
should say that it's the chair of UK Hospitality who's calling for a national pub day. Obviously, some concerns in the hospitality industry
exactly.
about
There's huge
struggling.
Last year, over 1,000 pubs actually closed. You know, we're getting pubs closing every day because they simply can't keep up with the rising cost of staff wages, energy bill, all these things that we are all facing, but it seems to be hitting these national UK establishments the hardest. And I think this is a great thing.
Right, where should we go for the final? We've only got about a minute left.
Well, they're both rather serious stories, the last two that we have here. In The Sun, they're talking about a potential clash of rival protesters today, but hopefully that won't happen. Essentially, a huge police operation underway today in London.
Yeah, they're saying that around more than 100,000 people are meant to be out and about in London today, and this is a split between the Tommy Robinson, a pro-Palestine protest. But on top of that, you've got the FA Cup final happening today in London. So already sort of two sides who can, and we've seen in the past, get a bit out of hand. You've now got rowdy football fans, don't want to stereotype anyone here, but football fans can tend to get a bit more rowdy coming into the mix, which is why the Met have increased the number of officers on the ground to, I think, 4,000 that will be out there today. But it is looking like things have the potential to kick off.
Interesting, they haven't chosen to make them static rallies. They're allowing all the rallies to process as they would do to protect free speech. So it is going to be a huge policing operation.
Yeah, I mean, the story in The Sun does point out that 11 foreign, quote, far-right agitators have been banned from the Unite the Kingdom protest by the Home Secretary. But, you know, obviously there is still massive scope for other people who might not be on the radar to cause trouble.
We're out of time. You can tell by the music. But we'll see you in the next hour. Thanks so very much.
Thanks.
We're trying to see as much as we can. We're in an area that's just